You can do this.
We're safe. We're safe. But part of being the artist is you have to be really conscious of your movements, right? Maybe.
It's true.
Maybe. Or maybe really unconscious. Okay, well, that was silly.
Your wrist.
Okay, yeah, there we go. We're back in it. We're all connected. Oh, yes?
And we can both hold this.
Okay, oh.
And we have made art. Hey, Benjamin.
Hello, Connie.
Nice to see you here.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
This is kind of a funny conversation because you're one of the people that I've known the longest in the Bay Area because we used to be coworkers.
Yes.
And you were actually one of the people that interviewed me for the job of product designer at Facebook, back when we called it Facebook versus Meta.
Yeah.
And my recollection was, well, we're on the same team. We're desk mates, and I remember feeling generally pretty impressed and intimidated by all the other designers that I was working with. And we worked together for a few months, and then I think you left and I don't remember if you left the team or left the company. But then there's been some like long adventure that you've had. And then we became friends maybe like a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And
a whole lifetime in between, really.
Right. And in that time, you went from, designer at a tech company to some kind of full-fledged artist, sculptor of large things, floater of rocks.
Allegedly, yeah. Yeah.
And I think I know a little bit of what happened, but I think I mostly don't know how you actually became an artist.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a long journey from when we were desk mates. We were both working at Facebook, designing things that like mostly, well, I guess when we were doing stuff, it was on a computer, but like mostly we were designing things that existed just like on your palm of your hand. And I had like, some really good learning there and really good experiences, starting to get the idea of how people react to things that are put in front of them, and how to sort of like really think through someone's experience as they interact with something in the world. But in this case, it was constrained to like this little portal on your hand, which is your phone, right? And then I had the realization that if I really wanted to reach people, I had to stop making things here, and you had to put that down, and then you had to make things like in the real world. And part of that motivation came from the death of my brother, and that really awakened me to the fact that living in my like San Francisco life, I was living in this like very constrained emotional range. It's like if you graph it, you're like, here is time, here's emotions, positive, negative. It was like just kind of chugging along, like not a lot of either direction. And my brother's death was this like big trough in that graph, right, as you'd expect. But it instead of that being like really like bringing me down so much, obviously it did temporarily, but it just showed me that there was like a lot more space in the graph of emotions, and I wanted to like live like at the peaks as well as like I wanted to like explore the whole range. And so I became like really unable to stay in San Francisco in that life, both in like work and the relationship that I was in and like the activities I was doing. And I needed to explore like the whole world. That process eventually led me to becoming an artist. And as I left, and interrupt me anytime, but as I left Facebook, it was really challenging to be in San Francisco without like a project. Everyone was like, what are you working on or whatever? And I was just like, I needed to do like full emotional recalibration. I didn't really know that at the time, but I was just like, I was really rejecting that, like, what are we working on? So I committed to myself to have like no mission for like a year.
It's very ahead of the trend for you. You have done this, like 10 years ago?
Yeah,
wow,
totally.
That would have been super bold for that era of the Bay Area.
Yeah. And it was hard to do nothing, being in the Bay. And I did leave pretty shortly. I think I was here for like 6 months without a job. But I knew I wanted to like explore, like, but I wasn't like, there's no goal. And after like that full year, I started to have this idea, like, like I was so interested in like experiencing this emotional range. And I was like, well, what happens? How do we make like a drawer that you pull out that, those pinned insect drawers where it's like, there's butterflies in it, but instead of butterflies, it's like literally like emotions. And like, what does that look like? And how do you like pick one and like experience that emotion? Like, how do we make that precise? And I really had this thing where it was like, I felt like words were like a really ineffective way of communicating, and that like the nonverbal world and that sort of communication was like just way richer. And so I was like, how do we like pack those sort of like emotional nonverbal experiences into something that's like replicable? And so I started searching the whole world for those experiences, and then very quickly decided I wanted to offer them to people.
You're searching for experiences,
but specific, like, you know, it's like if you do yoga, you come out of yoga feeling a certain way, right? Is that intentional? Like, did someone put in that intention into it, right? And then it's like, and then different types of yoga makes you feel a different way, right? Like, what are the ingredients, you know? And then it's like, can you package an experience that brings someone to a feeling? And you totally can. There's like tons of different examples of this. So I went like, I don't know, like trekking in Nepal, like meditating and yogaing in India, dancing in Tel Aviv, and then I ended up in Tokyo for 2 years as the apprentice of a rope bondage master. And that was sort of like kind of the beginning of making installation after getting really into the rope, seeing how to affect people like in a really intimate, close level. Like I said, at the time I was a tourist of intimacy. It was so fascinating to me.
That's such a great phrase.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at it, and with such precision too. You're not just like some broad definition of intimacy. You're like this one particular specific feeling.
Well, yeah. And it's a really interesting practice, the rope bondage, right? Because you're like directly behind someone, but it's sort of a performance for just them, really. And you can bring other people into the mix, like to observe or whatever, right? But really you're just trying to stimulate feeling inside them in interesting moments. And so you're basically like playing them like an instrument with the ropes. Like it almost feels like you're playing a violin sometimes, because you're like pulling this. I don't play violin, but you know, it's like you're pulling this like bow, which is just the ropes like across their body, and the intention you do it. And then it turned out like most of that is just presence that makes that really good. Like you don't need the ropes, but you need the presence. And so I was like, I had this thought. I was like, well, okay, like I can tie someone, I can make this like really intense experience for them. I can transmit this feeling to them. I can have this communication with them. But how could I intensify that? And then I was like, well, I could shape the space that I'm in, right? Like this is a really nice space for like a present moment. I could change the lighting. I could change the sound in the space, right? It's just like really basic at first. And I started experimenting with that. And I quickly came up with this idea of like actually tying the space, which was something my teacher did, but he did it for photo shoots. And I was really interested to do it for like creating a space for people to inhabit. And then, that leap of imagination was, well, if I could make a space that is tied, I could affect like way more people with that feeling, because I don't have to do the like tying one-on-one.
You're tying the space, and then it's like an approximation. It's like an intersection. And
that's when I did my first, I would call them more installations originally in Tokyo, in a gallery in Tokyo, was with those ideas. I literally tied the space and people could go in, and there was like, I think in the first one there was like mirrors, and the second one there was cameras and there was sound. And it was interesting little experiments in like creating.
Were you already an artist then?
No, I think not quite. No. But progressing to being an artist. I was looking for a different medium for sure. After I was really into the rope, and I was on some land that my cousin owns in Spokane. And he asked me to make something, because I had been making these installations. They got more and more elaborate with the ropes. Some of them were more photos, but I did my first Burning Man honorarium, was like a rope-based project in 2017. And I had no business doing that project. I had like the sketch was literally this big, you know, like talk about like feeling like insecure in like a design environment, right? I was like, I went into this thing having no business doing it. And I felt very like clear about that.
I will highlight that that's part of the magic of something like Burning Man. It enables people to feel like they have no business making art. Yeah. To make art.
Totally.
To be artists.
I'm
pretty cool. I saw that piece. It was the one with the big, there's lots of red rope everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that. That's cool.
Yeah, I saw that.
2017.
I was definitely on Playa, and I remember walking by, I think it was daytime, and people were utilizing the space to actually just do their own ties and performances. Yeah,
it's probably our crew. Like we had a whole group from Japan that was there tying people and stuff. And none of them most of them hadn't even been to America before, and they got like directly off the plane and came to Burning Man. It was like a wild experience. And I don't speak any Japanese really. And we sort of like we had like some meetings with the Japanese like burner liaison or something, and she tried to kind of explain to them, and like, it was pretty fun. But I learned so much during that process, like even just like the foundations of how to like build a project. But also like all these things I didn't know how to and also how to lead a team and all this stuff. Or just the beginnings of it. but yeah, so I sort of took that to the point where I was like, I was looking for another medium, and I was on the land with my cousin. He'd asked me to make something while I was there. And so at first I did some modification of what I had been doing. Like I used wire rope instead of ropes because it was going to stay there forever, like in his land. And then I saw these 3 trees and a space in between them. And I saw this big boulder that was nearby. Big. It was like, I call them huggable sized rocks, but very heavy, very heavy hug, but yeah, huggable size. And from the process of doing Shibari Sanctuary in 2017, I knew about this tool, that's the specific tool that we hadn't had in that process. And I just was like, if I had that tool, I could get a rock into the trees. I just sort of saw how it would work. And it was totally not interesting to me. But I noticed it. I was like, oh, interesting.
What was the tool?
It's called a come along. I still use it for the stone sculptures. It lets you precisely pull something in increments, but without using so much muscle. But you can pull a lot of something. So people use it to pull a log onto a trailer or something. So
this is like an industrial tool.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a you can find it at Home Depot. Yeah, but we didn't have one. We needed it for for Shibari Sanctuary, so it was on my mind. We'd gone around. I also had this so there was this nonverbal communication. How do we transmit feelings or states of the body? That was one question that I didn't even know that was the question I was asking quite yet at that point. Then there was this weird tool that for whatever reason was on my mind. And then there was this confrontation with the strength of materials and how most people don't have a relationship with how strong something is. So they end up using something way stronger than what they need to use for that. It was it was just something that was on my mind. And so I was like, okay, I want to get this stone into the tree. And I was like, okay, that's not that interesting. But it would, it would look cool. It's really thin cable, big stone. It's probably possible. And I left because it wasn't interesting and it was time to go. And I was driving, and 2 hours later, after leaving my cousin's house, I was just sweating and had to pull over because I realized if I could put the one stone in the tree, then I could put multiple stones in pathways. And then that was really interesting to me. I knew already that was extremely interesting.
Huh. Why does it go from not interesting when it's one stone to suddenly, what does interesting even mean in that context?
There's, when you have an idea, for me, I'm always searching in my mind for I'm listening for certainty. My intuition is vast, and it's searching all the little edges. And I know when I lock onto something that's this is, and I've just felt that really clearly, this is really important. And and I trust that. And then I have to think about it because I have to write an artist proposal or something. Right. Mm-hmm. But I think a single stone, well, in the end, I actually do think that's interesting, but I didn't know it at the time. But the journey, giving someone an invitation to an action, right? A single stone in the air isn't clear what the invitation is. It's just kind of surreal, Whereas what I visualized with this pathways, and in that moment, I sketched out Stone 27, which I did at Burning Man 2019, and Stone 7, which I did in Africa Burn 2019. And at the bottom, I wrote "need engineers." That was all I knew for sure.
An important note, yeah.
Yeah, because I was clear of the direction. But I had that certainty that if we offer someone an invitation where it's a path and a journey, that's going to be a really interesting experience. And I didn't know fully what it was going to be, but I trusted that burst of certainty. And that's how my process always is. It's for the concept is I really feel that this is correct. And then I just have to trust that and defend that through the entire process of then creation, right? It's very hard to justify, but you're oh no, but this is going to work. And I have to stay true to that, as true to that as possible. And of course, there's tons of compromise by the time it's out or it's being made. But that's the art of the actual process of art making for me, is to defend the purity of that vision throughout that whole entire process. Yeah. Then turn around and put that stone in the trees in Spokane.
You turned around, you drove back.
I drove back. Yeah. Called my cousin, was I'm coming back, drove back, bought the tool along the way, stopped at a little rigging store. I'm really good at also being a beginner at something. I think it's one of my skills. So I just walked into a store that I was these people probably know how to do this. It's a wire rope rigging store. And I talked to them about it. And they explained how my original idea was impossible. I was thinking it should be straight wires, and I didn't think about the idea that's physically impossible. You can't have a heavy thing in between long levers. It has to go down.
Yeah.
But just in my mind, I was oh, straight wire, But so I listened to that, and then I didn't know how to get the attachments into the stone, and I talked to them about that, and it's still there in Spokane, that stone. My cousin moved, but it's still on the land of the person who.
Oh my gosh!
And now
awesome.
It's worth way more, So it helped their property value.
Because there's this beautiful suspended art piece. Wow.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah. No, it's probably
How did you get
problem.
the little holes there? Because that's one of my greatest mysteries. I don't understand how you did that. Like just. In the beginner's mind.
Yeah, originally I did a bad job for sure. But the beginner's mind version was like, I walked into this place and I was like, well, this is like, they move big concrete blocks all the time. Like there must be a way to do that. And I asked them like, oh yeah, like how would you like lift up a rock with like you'd move concrete? And there's what's called anchor wedge bolt. It goes in, as you screw it down, it expands. Kind of like how you put like a picture on a piece of wall that's not like reinforced. It's like as you screw it in, that becomes bigger. That helps it from not falling out. And that's actually a genuinely pretty okay method. Like that was the first one. I didn't know how to install them. I like looked at photos afterwards and I was like, oh my God, that's like really not well installed. But then as I was leaving there and starting to think about it a lot more, I realized it was just how like what people do for rock climbing, but in reverse. In rock climbing, they put in bolts so they can clip themselves onto the rocks. And when they fall, the rock holds them. And I was like, oh, I could probably just do that, but in the opposite direction. So I did a bunch of research on rock climbing. Bolting. I wasn't a climber at the time. And I learned how to do that and actually got custom bolts made, had like started this whole relationship with like a guy who makes the bolts and stuff. And
That is a good description of beginner's mind. That's actually something I really appreciate about you. It's like you come in with like a lot of possibility. And I think that's what made you a really good designer as well. It's more like, oh, what can we do here? Even the idea when I'm holding this mic because I couldn't figure out where to put my little mic. And then like, well, why don't we use this? It would never occur to me to do that. It's like there's some realm of like expansiveness or rule breaking that I think you're really good at, and it's awesome.
Definitely, right? There's that quote about like arrogance and ignorance, like in having like I think I'm pretty good at believing that I can figure something out. Like I got in really deep in some of these sculptures, not knowing that there would be an answer, and I think that's a hard practice. It's not always easy. Yeah.
So Stone 27 was your first big art piece.
Oh yeah,
and that's the pathway where you can climb up these very large, heavy, and wobbly stones.
Oh, we don't like the word wobbly. They float.
These floating stones. They float very energetically.
Yeah.
And then the next big piece you made for Burning was that I-beam?
Yeah, there was one in between there, but it wasn't for Burning Man. The next big piece. I actually made Stone 7 first in Africa Burn. This was like sort of my plan at the time. I was like, because I didn't know how it would all work. I'd already made one sculpture at Africa Burn the year before, and it was a great experience. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this rock thing. I'm going to test it at Africa Burn in a smaller scale, and something that was like a lot more attainable in terms of resources, and then do the really big Burning Man one after that. And then managed to sell Stone 7. And I was like, whoa, it was a small sale, but I was just like, whoa, like that's kind of crazy. That's like, and then made Stone 27. And that's when like to answer your previous question, when I like took a step back after we were finished with Stone 27 and like, we still had our little like build camp set up but people had arrived, like the visitors, and they were going around, and I was just like, okay, now I'm an artist. Like I did it. Because it really felt like, a pure, like people got it. Like part of what's really important to me in creating sculpture is to like have time where the people who are going to experience it are experiencing it. I can just be there, and like it doesn't I don't have to be known. Like that's not the point. I just want to like stand around while people are experiencing it. And they were really having the feeling that I was hoping they would experience as they experienced it. So I was like, okay, and it felt like an invention of my own invention, right? As opposed to the medium I had been using before, which was my teacher's medium. This was like rope bondage. And it really felt like a pure expression of that and very effective. And I was like, okay, I made art. Like I'm an artist now. Yeah. And then selling that also helped validate that a lot. Being
an artist on two fronts, both like
yeah
from the concept, like birthing something that was uniquely you.
Yeah.
And the second part, which is something that I think is actually can be really hard to talk about and definitely hard to figure out, is like, how do you actually succeed in that way as an artist? Totally. And I think that's something that's interesting to me as I have these conversations with people, because I think many people wonder, how does one make a living as an artist? It seems like such an insurmountable thing.
Yeah.
And especially it's a challenging topic for people in San Francisco, where rents get really high and then all the creatives move out. And it's just kind of like there's this like creativity drain out of the city. And so I've just become really curious for the people who like identify as artists and can manage to kind of sustain themselves that way. Mm-hmm. How do they do it? What is their life actually like?
Totally. Well, our background helped a lot, let's be honest. Like the fact that I was, worked in a corporate environment first was extremely helpful. Like, partly in terms of like how to approach such things, but that's not as much what I mean. I just like not needing to like struggle for life from the beginning, right? Like I had a lot of space in my life to like develop the sculptures. And when I first sold them, I was super stoked. I was like, oh, like I thought it was like, the numbers weren't like they were six figures, but they weren't like enough, it turned out. But at the time I was like, I hadn't even expected to sell them. They just needed to happen. I was like, people ask me a lot, like if they should, like they want to make something usually for Burning Man because I have that background. Right. And I'm like, you should only do it if it's completely unavoidable. And I really felt that for the first few sculptures. And so I really pursued that. But I had no intention of like making money from them specifically until I sold Stone 27. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is like an element. But it's totally random. I still to this day, like I have a really big new commission, but I haven't figured it out. Like there's no repeatability in it. There's no pattern. I don't know how to like connect to the people who, especially making big things like that. But I am really good at I guess being like a dirtbag. I don't know if you know that term.
Maybe not in the way you're using it.
But it's like you require very few resources. Like
okay.
Or like I used to be, not anymore. But like I used to be really good at that. Where like I don't need a lot to live on. I don't need a lot of things. I don't live in San Francisco, and I think that's an unreasonable choice. Effectively, if you want to, especially making things like I make, like why would you then have your life, like I have a big workshop space in Reno where I live. I have like 3 vehicles, like one of which is like for only for Burning Man. It's huge and it's like parked somewhere. And like, I think like being able to spread out and have space, both in terms of finances, but also physically is like really important to the process. And I did a really good job, especially on the first 3 sculptures of just like, I worked so hard, and partly because I didn't have resources to spend to make that work less. But it was just like, it had to happen. I was the only one who could make it happen. And I was like, I pulled in friends, people who had no skills, because for them, it's an adventure. If they have skills, it's not an adventure. That's a job. Right. So I pulled in friends and had them join the adventure as opposed to like employees that I had to pay. And we'd like break things off and teach them.
That's a great line too.
Yeah.
Because adventure is great. Again, it goes back to participation. Exactly. It's like, we don't know what's going to happen, but because it's interesting and we're all kind of on the journey together. Yeah. You're on the same team. You're collaborating.
Totally. And I worked really hard to make sure it's like a good adventure for everybody. Originally, it's like, okay, these people are coming out to like support me effectively. Like it's going to be good. Like I make sure like, you can't have fun without a huge spreadsheet, right? So like to do a sculpture, it's like 32 tabs in a spreadsheet. I think I accounted for Stone 27. Wow. Just this huge spreadsheet, all this, like I had to learn how to do all this like 3D CAD design. And I met part of that note of needing engineers that I mentioned before. I played what I called engineering Tinder, and which I just posted on Facebook in different places back in the day. Saying I was playing engineering Tinder and looking for an engineer of my dreams to help with this sculpture. And I met 2 engineers originally for the first project. And now I still collaborate with Amihai Gonen, who's been, he taught me like his process for how to approach sort of like creating a physical object. He's a structural engineer. And that was an incredible collaboration. But I also had to learn how to weld. I had to learn how to do 3D modeling. I like love learning things. And then applied like all the digital design skills because we needed a website. We needed like a promotional video. We needed like, it's like you just have to bring together a lot of skills together and learn a lot of things to make it all happen.
That's such a great like timeline to follow. I think there's a big conception in the world that an artist is somebody who is skilled at painting and figure drawing or photography, and you can do all that. But mostly it's, I think you expand that, or you get to the core of that actually. So you contract, you get the core of it. It's somebody who just obsessively needs to do or make something. Yeah. And that thing is the art. And then they figure out the rest of the path to make that work around it. Whether it's putting holes in rocks or talking to hardware people or making 32 tab spreadsheets. Like I forget so much the process is like the obsession is actually that's what the art is, or the art wouldn't exist without that.
Totally. The art definitely wouldn't exist without that. And it couldn't have, like the first few sculptures would not have been made if I didn't get like so deep into the details. Yeah. Now I find, I don't like, if I'm not learning a new thing, I'm very happy to find a way to pass it off to someone else. So now with the commission I have now, I'm like hiring someone else to do the fabrication. He's a good friend of mine. He loves doing the steel. I've done it. I don't grow from doing that anymore. It's just like brute force, like suffering a little bit.
Do you have a thing for novelty? Like once you know how to do it, is it less interesting to you and you're seeking the next new thing?
Yeah. And that's why like you brought up the beam, like that's why I love exploring the same, like, right. So the first one, Stone 27, is the hanging stones. Then I did some other ones in between, but the big ones, we got Stone 27, and then we have Stone 40, which is, I call them lollipop stones. It's a rock on a stick, but it's applied in different shapes. So Stone 40 was this like 3 overlapping spirals that was first in Manchester and then now is in Copenhagen. And then the beam, and part of that, and that's it's a 150 foot long asymmetrical peaked I-beam that weighs, I don't know, it's 100 pounds per foot. It's very heavy. And it appears unattached to the ground. It's like, it looks very minimal. And part of that is like that when I change to these like different explorations, there's something to figure out again. And those 3 were like really important to me. Like I really needed to do those 3. And then after that, I was like, okay, now we have to sell them all. Like the Stone 40 was sitting there, a beam was sitting there. I was like, okay, no more big ones. We have to sell them. And we have to like, have a more of a boundary around this in order to make it sustainable. Cause to make, and I just mean as a human being, cause to make huge things in the world, it's like kind of irresponsible, to keep doing that without any plan of like what happens to them, how to support myself to do that, how to have a big enough like studio and like support system to make that possible repeatedly without like destroying my body and having it take my whole life without kind of giving anything back. Yeah. Other than good adventures and fun times and friends, which is all good stuff. But I needed to find a way to make it feel financially sustainable.
Yeah, the giving back thing's an interesting point as an artist, because so often it's like we talk about the need to put something out there and to create. And then like, what happens? Totally. Do we all like fall off a cliff? We're riding this energetic, like, obsessive wave. And then suddenly like, everything's gone. And like, oh,
it's a bit of an abusive relationship, right? Like, and that's why I needed to have firm boundaries. I was like, I'm giving too much here in this relationship. Like I'm making this thing, and Burning Man is a wonderful, venue. It's like, it's really hard to quantify the value of contributing there, but there is a lot of value. Like you said, like people who have no business doing something get like this crazy new opportunity, which I like really grew from. The people there are really desiring to be affected, which is a really nice audience to sort of, and they're extremely grateful, but there's no system for how to make that sustainable. And so it kind of makes sense. Like you really should only make like 2-3 sculptures, and then you should probably never do it again. In that model, it doesn't. Otherwise, it's like it's genuinely like probably like not a healthy thing to be doing, unless you find a way to make it more financially sustainable and more like sustainable in terms of time. So you
could do things that are less heavy.
Could do things that are less heavy. That's true. Yeah, or big. Yeah, I try to make smaller things sometimes, but I don't know if they're art.
Well, there's a sentence.
Yeah. It's because like the smallest thing I have is maybe like 15 feet tall, and it's like 5 foot by 5 foot. That's like the smallest thing I have. I've made like a lot of small like objects, but I'm like,
why is it not art?
Well, it's not that's not art, but it's like to me art what is, we're going to answer the question, what is art? Yeah, which there is a book that answers it. Which,
I want your definition, and I'll say I think is so strict or constraining. Like we I threw a party like a month ago, and you helped with this beautiful like red rope installation in the hallways, and you're very adamant of, oh, but it's not art. Don't you dare say this is the art that I made.
Well, I just have a little like I'm happy that you enjoyed it, and that other people liked it too.
Why not call it art? Yeah, I'm just like, it's an interesting point because I think there's something that makes it, again, approachable or like participatory. Like, oh, we can make something.
Yeah.
In a short period of time that still is enjoyed and you know.
Well, that's something I'm really interested in, like this, like the sort of community and the events that you're putting on. There's really, really interesting elements there that I'm very interested in contributing to. I haven't really contributed to any, except for my little red decoration, I would call it.
Decoration, okay.
Yeah, I haven't contributed much other than also my being and moments that I'm helping create with other beings in the space, which I love. And it's more of like a improv like yes-anding environment, and this sort of collage that everyone's sort of like mixing and remixing together. And I find that super interesting, but it's like more performance based. It's something I'm really interested in exploring going forward. Yeah. But in terms of like the red ropes and definition of art, I really do think art is an intentional transmission of feelings or states of the body, right? So the artist and feelings and states of the body are kind of the same thing, but when I say feelings, I don't just mean emotions, right? So there's like a somatic aspect, so or there can be. So it's like either like an emotion or a somatic aspect, and it's like for myself, like the stone sculptures come from experiences I have in nature, where maybe you get to the top of a mountain, and there's like a beautiful sunset, and there's a lake, and the sun's glinting just off the lake, and you had this like kind of big adventure to get there. Maybe you didn't know if you could really get to the top, and you maybe ran out of water or snacks or whatever and lost the trail, but you get there, and it's like, then you're just like hit with this feeling of like the whole world was created for you just to be in that moment specifically. And it's this incredibly like empowering presence in that moment. And so I'm trying to create physical circumstances for people to come to that same feeling. And it's not by doing it literally, although stones are involved, right? Which is just like a nice natural element that happened to come into play to do it. I think that's also really important about art. The best art I find is not literal, right? If you want to it's just about transmitting a feeling and abstracting that feeling away from story, and it's away from brain and thought. So you don't need to like, I don't know, if you want to like give someone the feeling of like sitting in a river or something, water doesn't have to be involved at all. In fact, it probably shouldn't be, because it's like too literal, right? Like you actually just want to like examine in yourself the ingredients of what's so nice about that, and then recreate it in different ways. And that makes a powerful artistic experience for me.
I like your description for those. When I describe you, I say things like, my friend Ben,
an argumentative.
I said you're really good at being disagreeable, which is an important and valuable trait. But I would say you make large scale sculptures or statues, and I think, but I remember one of the times when I asked you how you describe what you do, you would say something like, I create intense feelings. Oh yeah, I said
transmit feelings. I think that's what I said. Yeah.
Whereas like people
and you were like, no, you float rocks, and I was like, well, I guess we see it slightly
different. What we end up seeing is like, oh, there is a rock in the sky. You know,
that's an interesting point, because when I talk about my sculpture, like in a formal like a proposal or something, I always point out that I think about the art itself as the feeling that someone gets while they're walking on one of my sculptures. Everything I've made is interactive. You're not always walking on it, but it's always interactive. And so it's the feeling while interacting with it rather than the visuals or the materials. Obviously, those things are adding to that feeling, and I also try to make it beautiful. It's very important. You know,
do you mean like fear? Or is there some other?
That's it. Well, the thing is, words are very low resolution, it turns out. So if I could describe it in words, I'd be a poet. Kind of like you like words, so you know. But I'm not a words person by nature. So I make a sculpture to capture those things instead of words. Like, you know, like Haruhi Murakami, author, right? Yeah. I think he's like probably the most effective word artist I've encountered for me, because like when you close the book at the end, like I've had multiple experiences with the book where I'm just like, I close it and I'm just like hit with the feeling of the story I just read. And it's just like totally overtakes me, you know? But I find that to be really rare in words. And I don't master that in words. So that's why I make the sculptures instead, to do the transmitting instead of the words. But yeah, there's I would say there's
speaking rocks.
Yeah, speaking of physical circuits, yeah. There's probably intensity, there's fear, there's presence. Presence is a really big aspect, right? All my the sculptures where you're walking on them are literally just like mostly, if we like break it down a little bit, it's like with each step, the consequences of your actions get greater and greater. And I think that funnels your attention closer and closer to where you are. So it makes you more and more present as you get higher and higher. And then you get to the top, you have this release. You're like, oh, I made it. and, you know, and then you like look around, and then you have to like recompress because you realize you have to go down to the other side or whatever.
Yep.
And usually the relief, the like release of that presence or the release of that tension, for me at least, brings you to like this moment of clarity afterwards. It's like there's kind of this like full body release. It's like it releases a lot of nice endorphins in your body, and like kind of like, you know, like when you get out of a yoga class, you kind of feel like, oh, the world is all like naturally flowing around me, you know, like, oh, like everything's so beautiful, like, oh, this, that, right? Oh, the wind, oh, the trees, like you sort of notice everything, and then you drink a smoothie and you kind of go back with how you were before. But that's like
you're like a prism that you focus light on, but you're focusing the feeling.
Yeah, that's I like that. Yeah,
expand again.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
All right, I have an edgier question. If you don't like it, we can edit it out. Yeah. There's a rumor that you don't actually climb on your own sculptures, so you're depriving yourself perhaps of this feeling that you're creating. / how do you know you're creating that if you don't experience it?
That's a great question. So I'd say I've had an evolution with that over time, but I found it was really important to me that people really respect the experience in terms of like where they are with it, right? Like I don't want anyone to walk up to it and feel obligated to do it by any means. Like let's say Stone 27, like the pathway of floating stones up in a circle. And I knew for myself, like when we first installed it at Burning Man, that I was like totally not in the physical space. Like I had just like done this crazy huge, for me, it was like the hardest thing I'd ever done, right? It was like this huge undertaking. And I was in no way in the physical space to then have that experience, which I was offering, right? It was like, it was a project. It was distracting. And also there was part of me that was like, this has to go up again. So I didn't walk on it, right? But I spent almost the entire time that it was up being nearby, just observing and like listening and watching people have that experience. And it's not for me. It is for other people. I already know the feeling. Like I experienced the feeling, and my intuition was clear enough that it would have it. And then I get the feedback loop of experiencing people, like seeing how people experience it and hearing their words. And I'm like, okay, it's nailing it for sure.
Have you ever wanted to go up there?
Yeah. I mean, I've been up all the way on either side. So yeah. So now that's in Marin, I'm always hosting when I go up there. Right. And so again, it's like, I'm not quite in a fully present mode with it. And I was afraid. I was very afraid to take that last step, and I wanted to respect that. And I think it's really important, even someone who doesn't take a step on it, when they like look at it. Like I have a friend who lives in Berkeley, who I didn't really know when I made Stone 20. I didn't know at all that when I made Stone 27. But she told me it was her like one of her most memorable favorite artworks of all time. And I asked her like what her experience was. She said she didn't even touch it. You know, she just got there, and it gave her like so much emotion, like seeing what was happening. Wow. And like having this like caretaking urge for her specifically. But like some people, they go up, like she wanted to take care of everyone that was like, she's like, no, don't do that. You know, like be safe, you know? And I think that's such an interesting experience. And I think it's effective for her without having to have the walk on it. So I wanted to respect that by embodying that with the work, or I was just scared. But, you know, both. Yeah. That makes sense. And the beam, I actually did walk over just very slowly.
I did not. I scooted on my butt. I was like bravely walking up there. And then when it started floating really hard, I sat down and I scooched.
Yeah, the other people helped it float more than I was hoping when there's more than one person on it.
Yeah. I was like, you get a big gust of wind and I would be rather nervous.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
but it actually doesn't move very much. You'd be really surprised how little it moves. It moves like that much in either direction, but it's enough to like be really.
Well, I think for people who are like maybe really good at say slacklining, it's like nothing. But for people who are like, this is new, just like you're like how like 20, 30 feet off the ground. You're like
the beam.
Yeah,
the beam is 15 to your feet. Yeah, for you it's 20 to your head.
Okay, I see what you mean. Right. Okay.
Yeah. But I also evolved quite a lot. I wasn't a climber or a slackline. I was actually like had a big evolution with my body in the past 3 years of becoming a lot more. I mean, climbing is a beautiful process for having this like fear, doubt, conquer response over and over and over again. Like especially outside, you're like you look at the feet that you're going to have to use. Like you have your hands on something, you look at the feet, you're like, there's no way. Like there's no way I can do that. Like I'm going to fall. And then you look down, you're like, and I'm going to hit that ledge and I'm going to die. And that piece of protection I put below is not going to work. You know, you have this like whole spiral, and then you're just like, okay, but I don't really have another choice. Okay, I'm making this choice. You do it. And you're just like, oh my God, it worked perfectly. You know, and then you have to like evolve and be like, okay, actually there is a possibility that this works. And then you just escalate. And it's like the perfect thing to keep you in this flow state. You're
like stepping in the unknown all the time.
Totally. For climbing.
In some kind of but in some kind of trust.
Yeah.
Or it's either trust or it's complete letting go of like, well, maybe.
Yeah, but I think you're a little irresponsible. I think eventually you do have to come to like embodying the risk you're taking, and then trusting your experience and knowing that it's responsible. Because otherwise, you if you're just flinging yourself into danger, it's not responsible. And especially by blanking it out. A lot of people want to be like pretend like there's nothing, like there's no risk in that moment, and I think that's it's not a responsible strategy.
You want to be with the risk.
Yeah, you have to like sit with like the fact that it's all scary in that moment. But yeah,
it sounds unpleasant, but important.
It's definitely unpleasant but important. That's
all right. So you live right now in Reno, and there's lots of rocks to climb, and there's lots of space to make workshops.
Yeah,
and recently, and this is part of my bias as well as a resident and long-term resident of San Francisco, you've also become more interested in San Francisco. My take is, in the past, let's say 6 to 8 months, I've been feeling like there's a resurgence. Mm-hmm. I've been hearing that there's a resurgence. There's obviously a bunch of interest in AI and tech people coming in, and that's been kind of bubbling up. But what I've been surprised by is the number of creatives, artists, musicians, other people who live in different parts of the world who are also taking an interest now in San Francisco, which delights me. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, what has that been for you? What's been your view on it?
Well, I think to pay you a great compliment, I think you and Louise and the moments you guys are organizing has revitalized my interest in it. Like, you've brought together so many of those people that you've met, all these creatives, and just seeing it through your lens of your Instagram from afar. Mm-hmm. Like, I see all these things you're doing, and I'm like, whoa, like there's a lot happening in the city that I didn't know about, especially in those like really interesting creative moments and experiences. And it's been really, really beautiful to connect with that through you and events that you're hosting or you tell me about. And
what do you find, back to that word, interesting? What do you find interesting about the different things that you're seeing?
Oh, it's such a. I mean, I think what makes it really important. I'm going to say important. We're going to say interesting and then important. What makes it really important is, especially in this moment, but San Francisco as a whole, it's been through a lot. Let's be honest, right? Like
boom bust, everything.
Yeah, and the tech, like intense tech energy at all times, and the fluctuations within that. But I think that means it needs presence more than ever, and it needs to touch grass more than ever, to use like that expression, right? And so when those moments can occur in a place like this, they're even more powerful and even more impactful to those people. So when you offer a salon for music to happen, or a context like a party or a creative gathering where a human connection is by far the focus, and you did very smart little genius moves to further stimulate those connections. It's not just it's not just like, let's get together and like, it's like there's real intention in how there's going to be a lot of human connection in that space, both by the curation of people, but also the activities and little moments. I think that's just like even more impactful in a place where there's so much disconnection, and our AI overlords are impending, and Claude wants our attention at all time, and this like very accelerated like inhuman computer language is happening. When you can take someone out of that and actually have them have that like deep human connection, it's just like, it's super impactful.
Ooh,
yeah.
I like your description of that. There is you're right. There was so much intentionality behind talking or getting people to meet new people.
Totally.
Because I describe myself as a super fan. I just think the people that I get to hang out with and be friends with are so cool and interesting that I can't wait for them to meet each other and be inspired and cross-pollinate and talk about ideas and whatever it is. So I'm always trying to create ways for people to find the things that excite them, or they want to talk about, or they want to blend into. So to do that in a realm of play is so cool. And one of the side effects, we ended up, because we shifted locations, we ended up having to do it in a place where there was no amplified sound, which was kind of one of the early starts to
that's awesome,
acousticness.
Yeah.
And why, when you're not in a space where you're, just with something very loud, you're in so much more presence and attention to what's in front of you. And it's kind of like a constant conversation versus you get to zone out or drown out. You can take breaks, but you're just always kind of here. You're always kind of intimate.
Well, there's no escape either, right? Like the dance floor is kind of like a escape from human connection. Like there's parts of human connection, but it's also like, it's a way to cruise time without needing to like have, you kind of know what to do. You kind of stand there, right? You have your routine, right? But you don't have to like really step out of that comfort zone. For a lot of people, I think that's like a place where you can just kind of like disappear for the party and then reappear at the end, and make it through.
Yeah.
But I also think like the jams feel like it feels like, or like at your party specifically, like the impromptu musical moments, like in the hallways, they're just so ephemeral, right? It's like incredibly ephemeral. There's just no, like, it's just only happening there. It's only for the people who happen to be right there. And because it's being played on an instrument, it feels like even more true in that moment.
Yeah, like you never know when these moments will arise. It's some combinations. Same way when we host the musical events here. I don't exactly know who will show up. I don't know what combination of humans will coalesce. And then as quickly as something beautiful arises, it will also fade.
Yeah, disintegrates. Yeah,
and there's like so much beauty in the magic and appreciation of that. Yeah, there's two takes or two core ideas that I was surfacing as you were talking. One is, I think presence is the current counterculture. San Francisco has always been in a place of a counterculture, right? From like the beatniks to the psychedelics to the everything else has always been. Yeah, we're slightly off. We're going to make something awesome, and even where that like blended with technology, like with Apple in 1984 and all the stuff that was happening, and there's like this hunger, like what is the current counterculture? Mm-hmm. Like the AI culture, technology, and obviously we both worked in tech, so we understand like the importance and significance of that in the world. But then the cultural part, it is like reducing into smaller spaces, intimacy, connection. Yeah. And the other point I would have said was, I think, I don't know if this is going to be like too hot a take for it is living room concerts over public venues. It's all about, I wouldn't even say like living room concert, but just like gatherings, moments, like have a moment with togetherness. Like this room only fits like 20, 30 people at most. And when we're all in here and just enjoying the presence, and you have a moment to actually connect with one another versus 1,000 people in like a giant venue. Right. Well, in the giant venue, I do love myself a giant venue because we talked about this last night. I love the reverence and the ritual, like partly after spending a lot of time in irreverent creation space, like spaces where like Burning Man's very irreverent, like Bombay Beach feels very irreverent, stuff also very irreverent, right? You're not supposed to use their names, so we're going to bleep those out. Yeah, you can't use that. Okay, well, yeah, you can bleep it out. I thought, okay, sorry about that. It's but I think like the culture of like irreverence is has been very big in my experience the past years, and I get impact like the amount of presence that you bring to those things. It's just a different flavor, but I do think it also feels very stiff and very owned and very like hierarchical, right? And so, and it's not very community based, like you're saying, right? Everyone buys their ticket, they sit in the seat, they're not contributing anything. But I think in a small space and a small, first of all, there's like usually more impromptu contribution, but also the audience contributes a lot more to the contribution is such an important point there, because I think there's like whatever has happened to our broad culture is now you pay a ticket for something and then you expect to be entertained. Exactly. Things are brought to you. You're a bystander. You're completely walled off from whatever's happening on the other side. And that kind of loses the original, like the kind of community beauty of you bring some hand created instrument to the fire and it was meant to be a communal experience. It was meant to be interacted with, not separated. Totally. Well, yeah, and something that captured my attention, to go back to the interesting about specifically like your events that you've hosted recently is like it's the brain connection. Like I have a lot of body in my life, right? Like I got this, like climbing, the sculptures are very physical. It's like a lot of body. But the brain connection here in San Francisco specifically is just like, it's like these people are brain maniacs, right? Which is, they do it in their work, but then to observe how you guys, I'm going to put you all in one category, but the culture has evolved, maybe where there's so much of that brain attention also put into how to create these moments. So like,
seeing how you and Louise were using like AI to create connection in like as tools to then build connection in a physical space where the technology is completely removed. I was like, this is genius stuff. You know, like this
I do think
really
that's the right way to use it.
Yeah,
like,
so
I
cool.
don't want to say like, oh, we should just never use it. I'm like, of course we should use tools. That's why we make tools.
No, it's
but
so
finding
cool.
the way to like enable the things we actually want to do, which is connect to people, or it enables something that is the very human part of it, versus replacing the human part of it.
I found that very inspiring. In a genre that I don't know what to do with, right? Like it doesn't have anything to do with big rock sculptures, but like it's another interesting thread that I'm now like interested in and curious about.
The thread of tech tools?
Well, I used to think about this more, but like crafting moments, like crafting like more performative things. Like back when I did the rope, I had a lot more things revolving around like physical ephemeral moments that were on my mind. And I sort of let that go as I went into the big sculpture realm. But I'm sort of revitalizing that now, just seeing the venues and the opportunities that have popped up in San Francisco. Or in the general community.
I like that, even though like, and sometimes we speak to musicians and sometimes we speak to visual artists, and in your case, you're let's say large scale sculptor. There's so many threads that are consistent. Even when you're referencing like in your time in the practice of shibari, like the pulling and how so much of it is just presence. I think those are some of the important threads that artists and crafts people of many different genres all have in common. There's something that there's an obsession they want to create. There's the importance of presence and the communication of whatever is happening, or what you want to say or be seen for. And there is something about like I don't know that part. Is it the performance? Is it the skill? But there's something about you're acting into it, or you're the instrument yourself in some way. You are an instrument, or you play an instrument, but ultimately it's you. The instrument wouldn't play itself.
No.
Like you are
and you can't think too hard about it. I mean, I don't know. I don't play an instrument, but with the rope, you can't think too hard about it. Like that's not going to do it either. You also just have to like listen and feel it in the moment. Right. Like especially in this case, like with I can't say for music because I'm not a musician, but I imagine it might be the same for like jamming with another musician. But like when you're tying someone, and they're there, like it's not a one-way situation. It's like there's communication happening there, and you have to be fully present in order to receive that communication. And you can't have like pre-planned like a to-do list like strategy. It's not how it works. You have to respond to what's happening in that moment and listen to breath and listen to, and like feel temperature and listen to pauses, listen to like micro movements of the body, and that attention is really beautiful.
Attention is beautiful. I think musicians would probably say there's a lot in common.
Maybe. Yeah. We could tie them up at the same time and see what happens.
Shibari music jam. Wow, that would be a lot of excitement for that one, I think. It's something very unique. I mean, it is like something new grows when you're intersecting two things that have not been combined before. I'm sure that's been combined, but it's going to be interesting. All right. I think we can, with that, conclude the formal portion of the
Should we high five
the
to
interview?
signal the... There you go.
We'll just reverse use that for audiocing. And now we're going to be in like the bonus area.
Okay.
We may.
I like that the
microphone
goes to the table for the bonus area. That's fun.
Yeah, it's cute.
Like there should be like a big button that we press for the bonus round. The bonus round.
And it's the first time I'm trying this.
That's cool. Oh wow, there's props. Okay, I'm excited.
This is the part that you're going to be. You might be not as into it, but that's why it's the bonus.
Oh, there's rocks in there.
Rocks in here because one of the things we have is I kept trying to say, can we make little rocks club? And you're like, that's not art.
I didn't say that. I just said it's not my process. I said it's out of my comfort zone. I did not say that's not art. I said I'm not sure. Maybe I said I'm not sure if that would make art. I'm very precise in my language around
you are
art,
precise in your language. You are precise with words, which is good. I appreciate that.
I've had a lot of practice talking about quote unquote art with.
So there's some string.
Oh wow!
And we have some small rocks. So
this
is
the red
like
string is somehow appropriate.
And I realized I don't have scissors.
That's okay. We'll figure it out. This is you said this is an impromptu scenario. Yeah. We also just went to an exhibition together a few weeks ago with red string.
We did at the SF Asian Art Museum. Yeah.
Okay, you're just going for it.
Well,
good. No, good.
This
good.
is the
I'm
beginner's
glad you know.
mind. See, this is because I've never suspended a rock before.
Okay.
So I don't feel like I have concern. I'm like in your beginner's mind, right? I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
But what's the point of suspending a rock?
I don't know.
So what feeling are you trying to
points.
capture? I have no points in suspending rocks.
I don't think.
It's just something I understand, and I understand how it relates to the emotions around it.
The parts of art class that I always failed with the class where they're like, what is the concept? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like drew this figure drawing. We just drew the person.
Well, I think the problem they were making there, the mistake they were making there was asking you to describe it in words, which you do have to do eventually. But if you were good at words, again, you'd be a writer, which now
well, sometimes you see those little, do you ever see those little, actually at the Asian Art Museum, but the museum shop, they had little rocks, kind of like this, that had little like grass reeds tied around them and this kind of like aesthetically pleasing knot.
Okay.
And was there a concept there?
No,
probably.
Those
maybe,
are like some
knows?
Specific object. I don't remember what that was called, though, but I do remember that. But so
I'm just like, well, it looks nice. I don't know.
It looks nice.
It
looks nice. That's very triggering. It looks nice.
We'll have to edit this out.
That's
otherwise
not real. No, you can keep it in. Yeah,
as an artist.
Nice.
Sometimes it just looks nice. Sometimes it sounds nice.
Beauty is mostly irrelevant when it comes to art.
Oh God.
But it's just something else. That's just like aesthetics, Let's see, like, what if we make make a string,
so
like we can continue the.
Yeah, you could do. Are you nodding that, or are you just?
Yeah, I'm freestyling it here.
I want to do it where we can it can see what's happening here.
Oh no! Oh, that was mine.
This is an ancient meteor.
Is it really?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have time to go to the
Do you know where it's
ocean front to get rocks.
This is a very special rock.
It's a very special ancient rock. I believe
we can't lose that.
I believe that rock is older than the Earth. I believe that is the tidbit.
That's what's so cool about rocks too, right? I mean, this is not a rock.
It's a space rock.
This is a space rock.
That's why I said meteor.
Where'd you get that?
It was a gift.
That's so cool.
I know.
Damn, I'm jealous. Space people have space rocks.
People have space rocks.
You've
now stopped tying rocks.
Well, we're talking about the space rock. We're not. This is a workshop. Sometimes workshops take tangents.
But true.
But okay,
art takes tangents.
Okay, tell me about this rock. Do you know anything about it?
This one, I was picking it up. I think it's some kind of this is definitely a gift I got from Burning Man
it's
from some
rock?
Friends. I don't think it's black. I think it's a different type of rock. It's very lightweight, so I thought it was some kind of like lava rock, but it definitely had some meaning of like, I don't know, friendship, connectivity, love, and something. There's a little card.
I see. Oh, that's nice. I always forget. I pick up rocks from all over.
I just grabbed my 5 largest rocks. I don't have very many large.
It's cool that you even have a rock collection. You're already on the way.
They're out those from crystal stores. You know what I mean?
Totally, but this one's really special.
That one's very special.
That's really cool. I've always wanted a meteor.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good to know. Now you put it out into the ether.
Yes, we'd like a meteor. Yes,
would like a meteor.
I'd like to find it ideally, but I would also receive
go to,
one.
Deserts and stuff.
I also heard that this whole thing about this guy who searches. That looks good. This guy who searches really big rooftops in cities for them because apparently they're landing all the time. They're usually just very, very small. And on a really big rooftop, if you like search it with like a magnet or something, I don't remember. But that was just really a dreamy idea to me.
Yeah, you like to do things that are challenging.
Well, I like to, that's the process. Yeah, I don't want to just buy it. Well, because also like, rocks lose so much significance when you take them out of their context. So, right, if you don't put in some energy to get them, then it's really not. It
really is about
exciting.
The process for you. And
I like adventures, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any upcoming adventures?
Starting to paraglide in like a week.
Yeah, that's some intense feelings.
Yeah, I've done it before, but I'm excited to get really into it. And then I have some climbing dreams coming up. Yeah.
What are your climbing dreams?
I want to do, it's called Mathis Crest in Tuolumne Meadows. It's like a big day adventure on a big rock. So I like this idea, right? Like, about crystal healing vibrations or whatever.
I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah, but you've heard about it. There's like some idea that like rock climbing is just getting like a really big stone crystal vibration bath, because there's all these little rocks in it. And that's why people like it so much. It's just like, you're like, oh, I feel so good, do it in my body and doing it, right? And you're just getting like huge amounts of like crystal energy healing. It's kind of a funny idea.
It reminds me of like, at some point, this is like over a decade ago, my mom was talking about this idea that like, oh, I heard that this, if you have this crystal rock, something happens. And my dad just looks at her and he was like, what, you think that's true? So if you just slept in a cave on a bag of rocks, you think something good would happen?
Maybe.
It's very,
I don't. I feel like
you don't know.
you've gone to stranger lengths for something good to happen in your life. Perhaps.
Sure. I mean, sleeping on a bag of rocks doesn't sound super comfortable.
Comfortable?
Does not sound comfortable.
Do you think valuable things are always comfortable? I would say you know that that's not true.
Valuable things are always uncomfortable in your view.
I wouldn't say always is uncomfortable. Maybe there's maybe I have more of an edge around comfortable than and you have more of an edge around uncomfortable. This is why I think you live in a van, though you've denied it every time. I don't even have a van finished. Well, I have two vans. I have two vans, but I don't live in either of them. But that is funny.
Have.
I never have. Never have, and I might.
Record.
I'm not going to say I wouldn't, but I'm not planning to. Maybe for like a month at a time, 2 months.
That's a long time.
I know, but I'm trying to also live somewhere, Well,
you want to live on land in a
place,
not on wheels. Yeah.
I'm trying to be part of a community, trying to have a relationship,
It's important stuff. Okay.
But okay, what have we done here? What was your intentionality in putting this one so far away from the other ones, Connie?
Which one? That one?
This one. Both of those. I was making a nice string of rocks here with no intentionality whatsoever.
This I think is a byproduct of the process because we just simply had more space between us when you were tying this and I was tying this.
But look, what if this one's like the ocean? It looks like, right?
Yeah, it looks like a glacier, right?
Yeah. So what if we have a progression between ocean? We probably need this one in the middle because it's like land, and then we have sky, which is it's space, right? I don't usually believe in that sort of shit, but since we're trying to pretend to make art here, then we can really put a lot of bullshit into it, But it's fun to think about either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like a progression from water to earth to sky.
Water to earth to sky.
I don't know about these ones. This one's like ephemeral. Oh God,
that's very slippery rock. Yeah, but that's okay. This is it's mossy colored. It's green, so it reminds you of the forest. So maybe there's some elements going on.
I was thinking this because this one's the only polished, like fully polished one. That's kind of like tech.
I think we're at elements.
Rock.
That.
Yeah, I don't really like these ones where they polish them completely. It feels like it looks cool, but it
feels different. Yeah. This I found in a riverbed.
So with those markings on it?
No, I painted that.
Okay, I was just curious. Rock, what does the markings that you painted on it mean?
I'm sure I did this at some retreat, and this one I was painting a horizon so you could see ocean and like a little sun,
that's cool.
Little dots. And now it's wrapped in red. So,
and was it meaningful to you in the moment? Like, did it mean something?
I'm sure it did. A lot of retreats, like you're so immersed in like the feeling and the letting go or whatever, the transformation that is happening. And
that's why I try now to when I pick up significant rocks, I actually label them. I put them in like bags and label them in my studio.
Significant rocks.
Yeah, because otherwise they're just rocks after like a week or two. And you're like, what was this again?
It's good to capture
cool.
the significance. That's a nice note.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was going to say it's like the opposite of ephemeral, but it's not really. It's like you're finding the significance. You can find significance in lots of places.
Oh, totally. And it's research now too, because now that it's like part of my life, like I have to be a little more like. If you just want to be a consumer, you can go around. I don't know, this guy's about to make it kind of a meme, but it's like I guess like when you want to create things, you don't get to just always live in like blissful flow state, like presence, right? You have to you're like, I'm a creator. I got to slow down and actually make the thing. I got to like take notes on where my rocks came from because that's part of the practice, right? I don't get to just be like, oh, this rock is so special and put it in my pocket and like feel it forever. I have to put it in my pocket, think about why it's special, write it down really quick, because it's just part of the practice. And then that was kind of a hard transition when I did that. And sometimes it's hard to transition back away and just like experience again for a little bit.
That's how you started making your box of rocks and feelings.
Box of rocks and feelings. Yeah, I never figured out the box in the slide. The box is a metaphor for sure. I never figured it out. Should we could get really crazy and like why are we so constrained to the table? Exactly, right?
We're just
this.
constrained to the
now we're gonna.
We'll
come back. We'll come back.
Yeah, this is why I like your willingness to break the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought you'd enjoy this idea.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right.
Now we're making a suspension.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going. Space, you're tying the space.
Exactly. We're bringing the space into it, Connie, and then you can be in
it. Over there.
Oh, okay. But you should be in it too.
Yeah, I'll be in it.
This
is great.
This is referencing your.
Most people can't do that, so you're using your
yeah. And then we're gonna need your like something like that. Mm-hmm. But probably put it lower. You're gonna get tired really fast because you're going to stay like this for 6 hours. And then we're gonna go around here, I guess. Why not?
Out of the chair. Okay.
And what are we doing? Are we tying? Where our stupid metaphor can continue with our that we're tying like ocean water to earth.
All the elements are coming together.
Yeah, to space, to space that we're in. I don't know. We're just making things up.
I like
right?
that. Those are important things.
Yeah.
It's true. We are tied to the rocks. I'm tied in some amount of tension.
Does it make you feel grounded?
That's a great question. Does it make
ungrounded?
me feel grounded? Medium. It feels okay.
I feel like it looks a little ungrounding, if I'm honest with you, but it's okay. It's also very fragile. So, like at any moment it can all collapse. We have to go, what did you say to the pigeons, right?
It's the pigeons. You can tie Zach over there.
Oh, is that you offering a foot?
Yes, I think he was offering the foot.
Oh,
yes,
sorry,
yes,
I didn't totally understand that. Okay, we got to get Zach into this picture. Hold on, we'll get you.
Maybe we should bring the pigeon in focus so the camera can see the pigeon.
Do you think they need to see the pigeon?
I do. That one. That camera.
Yeah, here's the pigeon. Okay. Do you want it? You could put it here.
Sure, actually, yeah.
Yeah, the pigeon could be there. It could also be attached.
An important thread because the pigeon was an important character in our first artist talk.
Oh, great. Okay, well, it's coming back around. You're creating...
This is our third one.
But what does the rocks have to do with this anymore? Nothing.
But we ascribe the meaning to it, right? Both we and the receiver and the viewers in the aftermath.
Here we go. Now we got Zach's foot in it. But Zach, you have really responsibly. See how your foot is moving the lamp? So just know that since we're all connected, it means we're also all threatening the space as well.
That's true. But we are all connected. And again, the red lines, it's like the sort of the Asian the myth of the red threads of fate that are normally invisible.
Oh, and then you, Connie, as a host, your voice is being this is total bullshit, but we're running with it.
I think it's great.
And then I know, that's why I'm helping you here by doing it. And then I'm just trying not to destroy anything as I crop. And then we're also going to bring in your vision. It's very risky. This is all extremely risky. Okay. Well, we'll fake it. We'll go to this one. Yeah. So we had a boundary. The boundary was around the boundaries
recording and camera equipment?
No, the boundary is around a fear of loss. We're afraid of loss. We're afraid of loss around financial scenarios and respect of other people's belongings. That's good. We should do that. But why are we more afraid of losing money than we are of hurting each other by maybe pulling a chandelier onto Connie's head? Nobody. I don't really
want that either.
Yeah, but nobody was that worried.
Stuff, but it's is good.
It's very clear. It was very clear to us that the camera was not a good idea. It's interesting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we could probably stop with this now. But here we go.
It's great. No, that's like
here, you
got to tie it around your own wrist.
Okay, well, let me come back over here.
The artist is part of the the rocks, right?
Oh God! What do we do?
You can do this.
We're safe. We're safe. But part of being the artist is you have to be really conscious of your movements, right? Maybe
it's true.
Maybe, or maybe really unconscious. Okay, well that was silly.
Your wrist.
Okay, yeah, there we go. We're back in it. We're all connected. Oh yes.
And we can both hold this.
Okay. Oh.
And we have made art.
Maybe. Definitely something
Thanks
silly.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We did something.
Come back for the next show of Connie makes people do silly stuff on camera. No.
It'll be a surprise at the end of every episode.